Right, so welcome to a new guide on this channel, and in this occasion is the GX-80 from Cherry Audio. This is not a review, it's a complete deep dive guide about this synth. Everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like all of this, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee, you can. All the links are at the description. Right, so we begin with the VCOs, the thing that makes the sound. Now, I don't have to say that this synthesizer is a blend of the GS80 and the GX1, which is a different version, prior to the GS80. Now, I will not dive into that. You have all this history on the manual if you want to read it. It's pretty cool. It's an easy read, so you can go there and read about the GS80 and the GX1. If you look at the main panel, you cannot argue that it looks very challenging and hard to learn and to master, but it's really not. We're gonna chop everything in different parts, and you're gonna see that it's very simple to use. How this works in terms of how it makes sounds is going to be the rank 1 and the rank 2. So it has ranks. So the rank 1 is gonna be like a complete channel. It has its own VCO, its own filter, its own VCA, and even touch response. Same thing for the rank number 2, which is the channel number 2. But notice that it has its own VCO, but also it has its own filter and its own VCA and everything else. So like I said before, this works in ranks. If I turn off this rank, this one, and turn off this one, if I play something, nothing comes out. So if I turn on the ranks, something comes out. Now you need to know that right here down below, you have a master control for pretty much about everything. Right here, you have the control of the ranks. If this is all the way up, the pedal is all the way up, only the rank 1 is going to be the one coming out. But if I go down to the number 2, it's just going to be the 2. And if I put this in the 50% or something, around there, we are getting a combination of the first one and the second one. So in this case, I'm going to go all the way up. I just want the rank number 1. I don't care about the rank number 2. So right here, you can turn on and turn off your two main waveforms. You have a square or pulse, and you have a saw. So right here, you can switch them on or off. Right now, the one that it's on is going to be the saw because it's on the down position. Now, if I turn it up, nothing gets out of the synthesizer. We are not producing sound. So first, I'm going to start with the pulse. As soon as I turn it on, we get a pulse. And this is not, a super perfect pulse, which is good. They emulated all of this. Now, the main thing that you get with the pulse, if you follow the lines right here, is pulse modulation and the pulse width modulation and the pulse width. So with this knob, we can just adjust the width of the pulse very easily to something very standard that we get on, a lot of the synthesizers. Now, the next one is going to be the pulse width modulation. If I go up, it's going to start modulating the pulse. Now, we can make this one small, just, shorten the cycle. And with this, we can just, go slower, or we can just go way fast. And this is how much pulse width modulation we do. Right, all of these controls are just pretty simple. And like I said before, remember that the ranks are independent. So if I'm using the rank number 1 and doing some pulse width modulation right here, just, playing something, it doesn't matter. I could just turn the second one and do something completely different on the pulse of the second one, right here, just gonna go different speeds and even, a different pulse width. We're gonna start getting different combinations of sounds. The synth is just pretty wild, right? You can create a lot of different sounds. Right, so I'm gonna start over always. I'm gonna click on new to start with the new patch, and we need to talk about this section we have right here. So right now we are using this saw. I'm gonna turn it off and I'm gonna turn on the pulse. We know that we have a pulse, right? But right here, you have a high-passed pulse wave or just square wave, which is something that it's not from the CS80, it's something from the GX1. So what happens right here is that the square wave, this one, splits and we have control of a high pass on that pretty much the same square. So I'm gonna just turn this one off. If I play something, we get nothing. I'm just playing and we get nothing. So this one is the level of that split or the duplicated sine wave, square wave. If I go up, as I said, we start getting sound, and I'm gonna go all the way down to this one. We start getting sound, and we get the same pulse. It's because it's the same pulse. But what we can do in this one, we can high pass it. We can chop the frequencies. And as we do so, we can start creating different waveforms. You see it on the oscilloscope. And as we do it more and more, we get a different sound. Now, the cool thing is that we can combine whatever we have right here with the pulse wave. So the fact that this one it's off, it doesn't mean that we cannot blend this with the original pulse wave. So I'm gonna just turn it on, and notice that since we are not doing high pass, it's just gonna sound louder because it's just the same. But as soon as I start to chop the split one, we get different waveforms. And we get a combination, right? It's super cool. This is why we would get this. Now on this synthesizer, all the controls that are orange, it means that they are not CS80 native. They are just a combination that Cherry Audio did for us. They belong to the GX1. So then on the other side we have the saw, and the saw we have pretty much the same controls, but it's gonna be a little bit different. So make sure that all this is just way down, and I'm gonna turn off the pulse, and we are just gonna hear the saw. If I play the saw, we just get a saw. And if I'm gonna go all the way down to on this just in case. Alright, so we get a saw, and notice that it's not a super perfect saw. All the different oscillators are just emulated, so we get closer to the original sound. So this is how it works. We just turn it on and we get the saw. Now if I turn it off, right here we have something very similar to what we have right here. But on here you just get the pure pulse, you know, pretty much the same thing, and then we just high pass it. On this one we get it, but it's a little bit different. It's gonna be a band pass instead of a high pass. So this one is the level of the saw band pass. If I go all the way up, notice that we just don't get a saw, just like we did before, and notice that this one is off. Is we just get something different. So since this is a band pass, I'm gonna be going up, and we're gonna start getting more tone. And as we go up, we just can get, you know, get different shapes and sounds. And notice that it's band pass that we can see right here at the spectrum. Now, can you combine this with the saw? Of course, if I turn it on, we make a combination and we blend the both. Right. So very simple. We have the pulse, the saw, and then we can do pulse with modulation, and we have the high pass and the band pass. So then you have a triangle. So if I turn this off and we have nothing, we just get a triangle waveform. So, and then you have a noise, gonna go up, and you have just noise. Right, so pretty simple, a triangle, a saw, a pulse, we can just do the high pass, the band pass, the pulse with modulation, and then the triangle. And remember that all the orange ones are just additional features that we get from GX1, not the CS80. That is how much, you know, we are getting from the other synthesizer. Like I said before, now this looks very simple, but remember you have the one rank and the two ranks. So you can combine and do different things on both and then just get a great sound. And on top of that, on this synthesizer, you can have a layered mode. So it's like having two synthesizers layered on top. We're going to talk about that much later. All right, so let's talk about the VCF is this section that we have right here. I'm going to always start with the new patch, and we are using the rank number 1. So you get the high pass and you get the low pass, and right here you have the controls, and it says low and then low res and low high. Well, this is, you know, the cutoff, and this is going to be the resonance. If I play something, and remember we are using the saw, and I just start going down, notice that we see it right there on the spectrum, how we are chopping the high frequencies. And this is the cutoff for the high pass, or the low pass. And the other one is going to be the cutoff for the high pass. If we go up, we chop low frequencies. Pretty simple. If I go down right here, if we want a little bit of resonance, we are just going to be getting it. And notice that it's not super, you know, it's not, you know, really aggressive. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Then same thing right here. Going to go up, we get a little bit of bump right there. Right. It's pretty simple controls that we get on not all synthesizers, but most synthesizers. Now notice that in terms of filters, you have a CS filter, and then you have an emulation of the GX filter. And they're a little bit different. The CS filter is going to be a 12 dB per octave, and the GX is a 9 dB, which is a little bit weird, but it's just a 9 dB per octave. So if I do some cutting and I switch, notice that it's just a lot less aggressive, right? So you need to choose which one you want to use. Just like before, when we discussed the VCOs and the combination, you know, the blend between the 1 and the 2, we have a pedal for the brilliance and the resonance. So this is a, you know, is a global control, and it's gonna govern, it's just gonna control both ranks. So if I do something like this, let me do some cutting, and I'm gonna be doing a little bit of resonance. Notice that this one is just controlling globally this. So if something is going on and you have this pedal all the way up and you're just not getting what you want, maybe you need to check the globals right here at the bottom. As soon as I go really aggressive, notice that the resonance react a little bit different, and the cutoff frequencies react a little bit differently. It's because it's a global control. So you can do Alt or Command, and it's going to go all the way back to 0, so you can control it from here a little bit better. So I'm going to start with the new patch, and since we know how the filters work, we need to talk about the filter modulation, which is going to be this section. You have an envelope to modulate the low pass and the high pass. The envelopes and how it works is a little bit special in this one. So right from the start, notice that you don't have a sustain, you don't have an ADSR. You have an A, you have a D, and you have an R. Now, I'm not going to explain what ADSR is on how it works. I'm assuming that if you're just trying to learn the synthesizer, you have a little bit of experience. And I cannot recommend this synthesizer for learners if you're starting. And, you're deep diving right here, you can learn it. But some of the things, I'm just going to assume that you already know them. So if you want to start, you have a good synthesizer to start, an easy one. You can try the Miniverse, just to keep it in the same family from Cherry Audio. You can try the Miniverse, which is the Minimog emulation of Cherry Audio. Now, still, if you go to the web and you type how ADSR works, you're going to find a million videos about how this works. Most synthesizers, how it works is that, let's say that we chop a little bit of frequencies, we got a little bit of resonance. When we play a key and we use an envelope, it's going to listen to the envelope, so this control, when we play it, it's going to go up, and if you have some decay, it's going to go down, all the way down, and if you have some sustain, it's going to stay somewhere in between. And when we release the key, it's going to go back to the original position. This is how it works on a, standard synthesizer with standard controls. So on this one, you don't get that. You have something that calls IL, which stands for initial level, and the AL is going to be the attack level. And the balance between this both is what will make this one move, and it will just move differently. That's why I'm telling you, it's just a little bit weird, but still, you're gonna get the idea. It's very simple when you get it. So I'm gonna try something simple. I'm gonna go all the way up on the ADSR. And the ADSR is going to be all the way up, and I'm going to be doing maybe a little bit of resonance, or maybe all the resonance, and I'm going to stand around right here, maybe right here. So when I play a key, it's going to sound something like that, right? We can see how much we are chopping on the high frequencies. So now we need to use this ones in order to use the ADSRs, because right now we are just not doing anything. So the IL sets how far below the current cutoff frequency the envelope will begin when a key is played. And I know it sounds a little bit weird. So below is going to be right here on this section. And I'm going to do it right now, and you're going to see it on the spectrum. That's how you're going to be learning this. So I'm going to be playing a key, and nothing happens, right? Cool. I'm going to go up on the IL. And as soon as we go up, notice that it sounds a little bit different. And the spectrum has a wow. And it's because we are modulating. As I go up, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive and noticeable. Right. So we are doing some filtering modulation. And as all the way up is really noticeable. So how this works, the initial level is going to use the ADSR, the controls, to modulate what happens when you go from all the way down to the current position of the cutoff. So it's like, a sliding or gliding or, just modulating from here to all the way up where you're standing on the cutoff position. That's why if I go right here, maybe I'm going to make it a little bit more obvious. We hear that wow, but it stays right here. It will not go all the way up and then go down like a normal just ADSR on, maybe a different synthesizer. It's like us doing this. And I'm doing it manually. So it's something like us doing something like this. So this is what the initial level is gonna do. It's gonna modulate from here to where your current position is. And if you do less, it's gonna be no travel. And if you do a little bit, it's gonna travel faster. It's gonna be shorter travel. And as soon as you go up, it's just gonna make it slower, and then just slower, and then slower. It's just going to take all of this into account. Still, if I make it short and I go all the way aggressive, we can see all the times are just shorter, so we get a short travel. I'm gonna go all the way up again, all the way up on the attack, decay, and release, and I'm gonna be maybe doing something like this. Now we have a decay, so it means that it's at some point it's going to be decaying, right? It needs to go down. So I'm gonna be playing a key, and I'm gonna keep holding it. So maybe you notice that there's no decay, right? It never goes down. Now, if I do something simple, maybe do a little of this, and I'm going to make a short decay or something like that. So this one should go up, and then go down, and then stay at some point. We just don't get it. Just don't get it. Because with the initial level, there is no decay. It's only attack, sustain, and that's where, you know, you get the sustain that it's missing right here. That's the sustain. And then if I release it, we do have a release. So that's what you need to know about the IL. It's gonna travel from all the way down to where your position is, and it has a sustain stage and has no decay. Right, so I'm gonna go all the way up on this ones and all the way down on the IL. I'm gonna stay around here, and now we need to talk about the AL. This one stands for attack level. Now, since the IL, and you know, it's a little bit confusing, IL, AIL, just a little bit confusing. Since this one, the IL, the initial level, is going to be the travel from all the way down to the current position. The other one is just going to be the opposite. It's going to be the travel from here up and then down. And this is how it works. If I play key, notice that we don't get a modulation with the IL and nothing with the AL. So we are not going brighter. So as soon as I go up and I play a key, notice that now it's doing it. And if we do a little bit, we can see that now it's going up. So now it's listening this envelope to start from the position that we have right here and then go up, and then it's going to go down, and it's doing it very slowly because we have long times. But notice that this one has a decay. If I play a key and sustain it, it goes up and then decays to the original position. So if I make this a little bit shorter, we can just hear this clearly. I'm gonna play it in 3, 2, 1. Right? It's going up, then down, and then staying right there. And remember that we don't have sustain. It's gonna stay on your original position. As we go up, it's going to be, of course, more aggressive. Right. So this is how it works. And now what you need to do, you need to find the right combination of the initial level and the attack level and the, and the envelope. So one thing that you need to bear in mind is that the envelopes and, the initial level and the attack level will control the low pass and the high pass at the same time. You don't have independent controls. But it makes sense that with the low pass is a little bit more aggressive when we use it, and it's going to be a little bit softer or less aggressive when cutting when we do high pass. Still, if you are doing something with the high pass, and if you do too much, you're just going to chop pretty much everything. You just need to find the sweet spot right here. So if I do something, maybe something like that, that is it. No, it's kind of working. And now you need to find the right combination of initial level and then attack level. If I go down on the initial level, just completely different, right? If I do something like that, we can hear that wow. We go there, make less release. If I do more, so again, you just need to find the right combination of whatever is that you want to do. Now, one more thing that you can do, you can invert the envelopes. Right now, we have the normal envelope going to, positive, but you can just turn it into negatives, and now it's going to be the other way around. It's going to start backwards. Right? Again, this is another feature that we get on a lot of synthesizers. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. We need to talk about the VCA, and the VCF is like the most challenging part to understand of the whole synthesizer. So you know how simple, that's how simple it is to use this. Now it just looks confusing because we have a lot of controls. That's all. Okay, so let's focus on the VCA. I'm gonna always start with the new patch, and I'm always using the rank number 1 from the initial patch. So right here we have the VCA, and now we do have ADSR. So we have a standard ADSR control. Now, if you don't know what the VCA section is going to do, again, remember, I'm assuming that you have a little bit of experience. It's going to control how the volume goes out of the synthesizer. So here's like the volume control. So the ADSR will works just like you would expect. If I play something and I want to, slowly introduce or go up in amplitude, if I go all the way down on the decay, sustain, and release, it's going to go up, and sometime it's going to go down because the attack is slow, but it's not going to decay, right? It's just dying right away. So if we want a little bit of a smoothness when we decay, it's going to, we need to go up on that one. If you want to sustain at some point, you add a little bit of sustain, it's going to go up, then down, it's going to sustain right there. And what's going to happen when we release the keys? I'm going to release it, and then it slowly goes down. If I do no release, I'm gonna release the keys in 3, 2, 1. This sound dies right away. So we need to do a little bit if you want to add a little bit of a smoothness when we play the keys. So this was a tiny 101 on ADSR. Here you have something that calls VCF level and then a sine wave. So it's a little bit weird, but that's fine. I'm gonna maybe just go to defaults on the positions of the ADSR. Just gonna get the default ones. And right now it says VCF level. So what the F is this? If I go all the way down, what we are doing pretty much, we are just chopping the chain. The sound that goes from, from the VCO, from the oscillators, goes through the VCF. And right here we are saying we don't want any sound. And it's because you have a sine wave. So you can just combine the sound that comes from the VCF with the sine wave that you have right here. You might be thinking, why the F we get a sine wave on the VCA? Now, if I go all the way down, you can see that it is not a sine wave. It's just, it is a tone, a pure tone, but it's we have a little bit of mud right here. So it's not a pure sine wave. Let's just begin there. And it's because the main idea is because a sine wave has no harmonics. And this is why it's here on the VCA, right? It has no harmonics, so why putting it on the VCO? It's just a simple tone. But again, it's just not a simple tone. You have a little bit of saturation and, saturation, a little bit of dirt, what you get with the original hardware. And Cherry Audio modeled this after the original hardware, which is something pretty cool, that they just didn't throw a dump sine wave right here. They emulated this. So you can make a combination of the tone, pure tone, and then go up and just, combine whatever you have before that. So back to an initial patch, and one thing I didn't mention is that you have a panning control on each of the ranks, and you have a level control, and the level is super important for the next section, which is going to be the touch response. So if I play something, the level is going to be how much level we're going to get out of this. So if I go all the way down, we get nothing, but if I keep going up, we're going to get more level. Pretty understandable, pretty simple, and you can go up a little bit more. Now the panning is going to take the rank to the left, or it's going to be to the right. And this is something super cool because we can pan the rank number 1 and then pan the rank number 2 and then just, get a good blend. Right. So this is going to be velocity and it's going to be Aftertouch, but it's going to control the level, which is going to be this control that we have right here. And this one is going to be controlling the cut of frequencies. So we can modulate it with velocity in this section, or in this section we can do it with Aftertouch. So first I'm going to do level. I'm going to set something around there. And if I play it soft, we get that. I'm going to play it softer. And if I play it really hard, we get the same thing. So the level is going to do just that. If we play soft, it's going to be soft. If I play hard, it's going to be a lot louder. Soft, hard. So this is very reactive to velocity. It's going to go up if you play the keys harder. Now I'm going to go all the way down on this one, and I'm going to be doing some cutting frequencies and a little bit of resonance. So if I play it, it's going to sound like that. Now the brilliance, what it will do is the same thing as level. It's going to modulate or just make this control move up, listening to the velocity. If I play soft, we get that. And if I play hard, it's going to be brighter. Hard, soft. And if I go all the way up, it's going to be really noticeable. That's kind of a soft. If I play hard, it's going to go up. So you have the same controls for the Aftertouch. Now, if you don't have Aftertouch, you don't have a keyboard with Aftertouch, you cannot do it. Level is the same principle. I'm going to be going to level, I'm going to press a key, and when I use the Aftertouch, it's going to go up and down in volume. And I'm just doing it right now. And again, we get the same idea with the brilliance. If I go up and do the Aftertouch in 3, 2, 1, it's going to go brighter. When I release it, it's just going to go down. So very useful controls. And remember, you get this for the rank number 1, but you also get it for the rank number 2. So you can, make combinations. This is the main power of this synthesizer, the versatility that you get when creating sounds. Right, so now we need to talk about something else. Now, so far we discussed how the VCO and everything else works, and notice that we just covered like 50% of the synthesizer. So the synth is pretty simple once you get to learn a little bit of the parts, right? It's just pretty simple. But so far we never discussed how to change the pitch, right? How do we know how to enable the VCOs and everything else? But what's going to happen with the pitch? So all this is going to happen on this section we have right here below. This is the performance section. So always starting from a default patch, and we need to focus first on this section. You have a master pitch. If I play a key and go up, it's going to go up in semitones, one semitone up, or it's going to go one semitone down. Now this one, the master pitch, is a global control. It's going to be detuning both ranks, not just the first one, right? Both. But still, what you can do with this control is that you can detune the rank number 1, one semitone down or one semitone up. And if I do Control or Alt actually, or Command and click, it's gonna take it back to the center. Now, if I go right here, turn off the rank number 1 and we just get the 2, we get nothing because remember, we need to use the blend. We're gonna talk about this in a minute. We're gonna go back and now we are listening to the rank number 2. The tune for the 2, up and down, right? So starting again with the new patch, and I'm always doing this so we can all start from the same place. We need to talk about the feat that we get right here. So this is where we change I wouldn't say octave, we change the footage, right? So I'm going to be standing on an initial patch. We are using the 1 and the 2, but I'm going to select both oscillators. So we have a blend of the first and the second one. So now we are getting the first one, right? And the second one. So why do you get this? Because this is a little bit weird. On other synthesizers, when it gets to footage, you get 16, 8, 4, and maybe 2, but you don't get the in-betweens. And this is something that really cool because we can create intervals with both ranks. And some of the footage right here that we get are something that we get from the GX1. And this is something that Cherry Audio kind of brought it right here, and it's actually really cool. So I'm going to be standing, we are using both oscillators. On the second one, I'm going to stay on the number 2, on the number 8, right? 8 feet. So I'm going to be playing a key, just whatever key, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to move the first one. I'm going to detune the first one. So now this one is going to go below, 1 octave below. We're doing 8 and 16. But then if I go up, it sounds a little bit different. We are doing 5, 1/3, so it's going to be a fifth above unison. And as we keep going up, we can hear that we get different intervals, that we can play with this and just create cool sounds. And so this is actually a really powerful tool. Right, so back to an initial patch, and we need to discuss the sub-oscillator. And maybe you're thinking, and you read sub-oscillator, you think, oh, we get a sub. Well, no, this is not a sub, it's an LFO. Why? Well, this is a 1976 emulation, so it keeps the original names, but it's not a sub-oscillator. It's just an LFO, a common LFO, and it's a simple one. So remember, we are using default patch, you know, the default patch that we get. And the sub-oscillator, it's a very simple LFO. You need to use the pedals to control, to modulate the VCO, which is going to be the pitch, the VCF, the filters, and the VCA, which is going to be the volume. Now, you can use different waveforms, sine wave, triangle, the inverted one, which is going to be a ramp, and then you get, a pulse, you get sample and hold, which is going to be kind of a random, and you can use noise. So I'm going to go to a sine wave. All this is just pretty simple. Now, you can sync it to, you can sync the speed. This is the speed of the LFO. You can sync it or not. This is, again, completely up to you. And this is how, you know, we use the speed. Now, if I go up on the speed and go down, nothing happens. And it's because we need to allow the LFO to do something. If I do VCO, what we are doing, as you can hear it, we are doing pitch modulation. If I go faster, you can get it. If I go slower, we get less. Right. So if I go down on the VCO, we are doing nothing with the pitch. Now I need to do a little bit of cutoff frequency. So I'm gonna go down, and maybe gonna go up in resonance just like that. So what we do on the VCF is just gonna be filter modulation. It's the same one. You can use maybe a different waveform. You do more, it's gonna do more. You do less, it's gonna do less. Right. So what's the VCA is going to be? The VCA is going to be up and down. In this case, we are modulating the volume up and down with a sine wave. The other waveforms are just going to give you, you know, a different sound. We get the sample and hold, and you can do it with noise. It's going to be very noisy. So if you think about this, it's like a tremolo. Right. Now you can also, and I'm going to do it with the VCF because it's just pretty, you know, we can see it right there, pretty noticeable. I'm gonna turn on the mod wheel. When I do it, nothing is gonna happen, and I'm still playing a key, and we are still doing the modulation. But now you're saying that you don't want to control it from here, you want to use your mod wheel. So I'm gonna use it right now. I'm using a MIDI controller that has a mod wheel. And I go down on the mod wheel, we get no modulation. If I go up, we get the full modulation. And I'm going all the way up on the mod wheel, and still, you know, this is going to control the intensity. So it doesn't matter, I go all the way up on the mod wheel, it's going to respect that, right? Right, so as you can see, it's a pretty simple LFO. So again, an initial patch, we need to talk about a little bit about this, and we already talked a little bit, you know, about this section. This is pretty simple. It's going to be the blend between the rank number 1, the rank number 2. Right now we are just blending both, and we can go all the way to rank number 2. So I'm going to stay on the number 1. What the F is going to be the brilliance. Again, it's a global control for the brilliance. And if I go up, down, notice that we get a little bit of cutoff. We're just cutting. If I go up, we get more. And notice that if we see right there is negative values, and we can go to positive values. Now, this is something that it's going to be controlling both ranks at the same time. It's a global control. So if I do something here and I just make a blend between both, you can easily control it from here. Now, you can also do the resonance. If I do a little bit of resonance just to do something, you know, notice that is affecting the sound. Right. So again, it's just a global control that you get. So even though it says touch response, the first one is going to be pitch bend. It's more related to glide or portamento, you know, it's what we know these days. And the speed VCO and VCF, this is related to the sub-oscillator, which is going to be the LFO. And it's going to be responsive to Aftertouch. So if I play something, remember we have the default patch, and I go all the way up on this one, now we get... we get the glide or portamento. So I'm going to go back, and now we need to talk about the touch response. Now, if I play something, we are not doing any modulation. So we need to do something in order for this to do something, especially with Aftertouch. So I'm going to go the other way. Sorry for that. I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to do something with the speed. First, I'm going to be with the sub oscillator. I'm sorry. I'm going to do a speed, something really slow. I'm going to do all the modulation, and we are modulating the pitch. I'm going to go lower. So we can see that we are doing, indeed, pitch modulation. I'm going to go all the way to the other side. So the touch response is going to affect the speed of the sub oscillator. But when we are doing, when we want to modulate the speed. So I'm going to go up, and as soon as I use the Aftertouch, notice it's going faster. I'm going to do a little bit less. Maybe it's going to be a little bit obvious, maybe with the VCF. I'm going to do all the way up on the VCF, and I'm going to chop the frequencies and do a little bit of resonance right there at the top. So now we can, now we can really hear this. I'm going to go slow on speed. But the idea is that we use Aftertouch to go faster. So as soon as I press harder, it's going to, use the Aftertouch to go faster on that control. And again, all of this is just related to the sub oscillator. So then what the VCO and the VCF are going to be. I'm going to go down right here. I'm going to turn off the VCF, and I'm going to do something on the VCO. So we are doing pitch modulation. Maybe I'm going to do a little bit less of cutting, so we can really hear it. Maybe there. Right. So no pitch modulation, pitch modulation. So I'm going to do just a tiny little bit, or maybe, something about around there. So now again, the Aftertouch is going to give us more pitch modulation or none, or just a little bit. So this is, again, a way of using Aftertouch to alter the sub or the LFO controls. And then we get, the VCF, and it's the same principle. I'm going to be doing something around there, and we're going to go back to the VCF. I'm going to be doing something like that. And if I press harder, do the Aftertouch, it's going to affect it more. I'm going to go aggressive. Right? So yeah, again, this is something that you need to use Aftertouch. And you need to have a keyboard that responds to Aftertouch. How the keyboard control works is that it's going to scale your keys, let's say. I'm just gonna, if you don't know what keyboard control is, it's going to kind of scale your keys in terms of how they will react when you play it. In this case, on this synthesizer, you have a low and you have a high. So this one is talking about the middle C. So how it's going to be reactive, the filters and the filter, the cutoff, how it's going to react when we play below the middle C, and how we play above the middle C. You need to look at the spectrum, and it's going to be really obvious. I'm going to be playing a key, and I'm going to be playing a low key, right? And we get something like that. So going to up, since I'm playing below the middle C, it's just making it really dark. So the filter is just cutting a little bit more. It's just less reactive to what we are doing. So lower notes are going to be really dark. But if I go to higher notes, they're still, bright. Now, if I again play a low key and go all the way down, now the low notes are super bright. And the high keys are the same because they are above the middle C. Now on the other side, we have this control, and this is above the middle C. So if I go down on this one, I play higher keys, and they're gonna sound really dark. But if I go up on this one, they're gonna sound a lot brighter. And I'm in a weird position, so sometimes it's gonna miss the keys. I have the microphone and all the computer and everything else on just kind of at the same spot. So it's a little bit hard for me to reach the keyboard. So again, what you can do, you can make a blend of the low and the high. So Let me give you an example. Let's say that you want the lows to, to be really low. You don't want to get a lot of this, but the high ones, you want it for them to sound really bright. So now we have something low that we are cutting a lot of frequencies, and when I play keys above the middle C, they're gonna be brighter. Or we can do the opposite. If I play a lower key, that one will be getting a lot more frequencies, and when we go to higher frequencies, we're gonna get darker sounds. So that's how the keyboard controller works. Now, then you get the level, and the level has the same idea, but this one is going to be with volume. If I maybe play a low key below the middle C, and I go down, the level goes down. If I go up, the level goes up. So if I want to have low level on the on the lower part of the spectrum, but then the higher keys are going to be louder, we can achieve that by doing something like this. If I do the opposite, the low level is going to be really high, and the highs are going to be really low. The lows are going to, sound louder, and the higher ones. So all of this is for you to make a blend, when you make a patch, and maybe you need for the lows to be very consistent, and maybe the highs, when you play higher keys, are going to be in the way. So this is a way to control the level and the cutoff. Right, so we need to talk about the tone selector we have right here, and long story short, it's that back in the day we couldn't store patches. That's a reality. So this buttons, what we'll do, will disregard whatever information, whatever position of the knobs we have on the ranks, and it will just give us a preset for each rank. So you get the rank number 1 and the rank number 2. And, I'm going to show you again, we're going to start always on a default patch. So if I click on this one, it's going to start changing the position of the sliders. And you're going to get, different sounds. If I go to flute, so again, the idea of this and the original hardware, is that you press the button, it's gonna change the ranks, and then you can start off from there. Now, right here on this emulation, whenever you maybe select a sound, it's gonna go ahead and do it. It doesn't mean that you cannot change it, but when you change it, the light is gonna go to panel. So panel means that you altered the rank in some fashion, and now you're not using the preset anymore, right? I'm gonna press it and move it, and now it's reverting back to panel. So if you're always standing on a patch, on a tone selection or selector, and then you hit panel, it's just gonna go back to whatever you had from before. So all the options on the presets of the tone selector are the originals. So Cherry Audio make the decision of having, giving you the original ones. So when you press the strings on the rank 1, and I'm gonna make a combination of the rank number 2, and you go to brass, then you get what you would get on the original hardware. Now, still, what you can do, and it's the user mode, it's a pretty cool and useful thing. Now, it would be nice to store maybe a position of the ranks and store it as your own. You cannot do it. These ones are not writable. So if I go to user, now right here on the user mode, you can store whatever you do right here. So if I go all the way down on these knobs, right, and the sliders on the rank number 1, and I'm doing this just to confirm that we are storing a patch, let's say. I'm gonna go down, 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 and there we go. Now this is the sound of my number 1, which is nothing. Still, I can go right here and just right click, and it's gonna say save rank 1 sound. I'm gonna just click it, and that is gonna be stored in the rank number 1. So if I go and get out of the user and load something else, we get something else. But if we go back to user and I just tap on that one, we are able to store a patch on the tone selector. Still, when you right click, you go there and you erase the user presets, you can just delete it. Now, the cool thing again is that you can store for rank 1 and rank 2 just different patches that will not save the entire panel, like a preset, because if not, it will be like saving presets. But you can save it, save the positions of the knobs within the tone selector. So right here in the tone selector, if you go there, you have something that calls util. Now, this is not really related to the tone selector. This is a bunch of functions that we get for the whole software. So we can copy the ranks, the 1 to the 2, then we can reset the rank. Let's say that we start from a different a new patch, and we make some changes to all the different knobs and sliders, and we have something cool. But maybe I don't like what we did on the rank number 1. Well, you can go right there and you can just reset the number 1 without resetting the whole patch. So, a bunch of cool, useful functions. And when we talk about layers, then again, you can copy and reset the layers from here. So that's the tone selector, pretty simple. And I really like when, developers, they create an emulation of something and they give you, a bunch of presets like we get right here, but they also give you what you would get on the original hardware. It's just a taste of the original one. And it's, it's something really cool. Right, so right in this section, you have a ring modulator. I'm not going to explain what ring modulation is because you can go to YouTube or the web, type ring modulation, and you will have a bunch of information just telling you in a much better way and for visual how ring modulation works. So I'm going to show you how this one works right here. Since on ring modulation, we are going to be modulating, going to be playing something, we are using the default patch as always. You have a mod right here. This is how much of ring modulation you're gonna do. And if I go up, we're gonna start getting it. And if I go up, all the way up, we get more. If you do less, we get less. Pretty simple. Now you can decide the speed, you can go slower, or you can go faster. And the depth is how much we're gonna be affecting it. Now the thing is that the depth works in tandem with the attack and the decay. So we have an envelope that will modulate the speed. That's why you have an arrow going from here to the speed. So we can start slow and then speed up and then go back down again with the attack and the decay. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna keep the speed low and I'm gonna go all the way up on the depth. And that's what we get. So the attack again is all the way down. It's like using the envelope is attack 0 and decay 0, which is get nothing. But I want a little bit of attack and maybe a little less of decay. So it's maybe gonna do a lot of attack. So it's gonna start slow, grow up, and then slowly decay back to the normal speed. If I add a long decay, it's gonna speed up, and it's gonna slowly go back. It's just an envelope. And remember the depth is going to decide how much of the envelope will affect the speed. If I do less, it's gonna be less. And if I do a lot more, it's going to be a lot more. Right, so pretty simple controls. Right, so we need to talk about the section right here at the bottom. We covered pretty much the whole synth. We still need to do a lot of talking, a little covering, but we know all the common parts, all the most useful parts. Now we still need to now we're going to talk about voices. I'm going to go back when we touch this section, which is going to be the portamento, and talk a little bit more about this slider that we get right here. So when you start with a new patch, you always have a poly, and then you have 8, which means that you're on polyphonic mode, and you can press many keys, and you can play up to 8 voices. Right? So pretty cool. You can narrow it down or go up to 16. Now, what you need to know is that there's no voice stilling right here. If I go to 2 and I play a key, and I play a new one, and I'm going to do a lower one so you can see it right there on the screen. I'm going to play a low key, I'm going to play a higher key, and we get 2, right? Because we are using 2 voices. Now, if I play a new one, that is just not playing the new voices. It's not stilling this one. Nope. So there's no voice stilling. Only when you release something, then it's going to allow you to move forward if you have a limited amount of voices. Now, still you have 16, it's just more than enough. Now, I'm going to go maybe to 4, and I'm going to go down to the unison. Now, we have the ability to create unison. If you don't know what unison is, we grab a bunch of voices. In this case, it's going to be 4, and we stack them on top of each other, right? We are just, stacking. So this means that you cannot play many keys at the same time. This is like going back to a mono mode. We can play one key at a time. Now, the thing is that each key will contain 4 voices. So we play the 4 voices at the same time. I'm going to go unison detune all the way down. So if I play it, notice it's just super loud. As I go down on the number of voices, since we use less voices, it's going to be less loud. And if I go to 8, louder, super loud. Right, I'm going to keep it on 4. Now, the cool thing is with unison is that when we detune the voices, we are separating them. And when we separate the voices, we get this big sound. Something very common. Right? Cool. Now, the number of voices is completely up to you. As you keep go up on the voices, you have more, and you enter on the, beehive territory. And then what you get is the mono mode, and the mono is just mono. It doesn't matter what number of voices I have right here. I'm gonna be playing one key, and it's only letting me play one key at a time. So if I make a chord, I cannot make a chord because this is just a mono synth now. Okay, so let's just keep moving forward. We need to talk about the ribbon, what we have right here. So by default, what this does is going to be like a pitch bend, right? So I'm going to be playing a key. And remember, we always start, I'm going to start with the default patch. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to slide. And it's going to take the pitch up. It's going to pitch up. Right? If I tap it right here and then go down, it's going to pitch down. Pretty simple. Now, the problem is that when you start right here, you don't know how much up you're going. You're going as far as the ribbon lets you. So right here, you have a couple of options. So linear, the lin or L-I-N, is going to be, if you touch it right here, you can go up and down as far as the ribbon goes. But if you go to semi, right here, you can do 1 semitone, 2 semitones, 4, and you can go all the way up to 12. So if I do something like 3, I'm going to go up, and I can go only 3 semitones up or 3 semitones down. So now you have a little bit more control. You can go all the way up to 12 right here. So now we need to talk about the layer mode, and this the layer mode you have pretty much 3 ways. You have single, you have dual, which is this one, and you have split. And they're just very simple to understand. The complexity comes when you want to create a patch and you're using a dual. It's because you have a lot of more possibilities and just create more complex sounds. So it's going to take you a little bit more time, but it's just a fantastic thing. Okay, so when we are standing on single, what happens is that we have one panel, one synthesizer. So we can see this synthesizer. It's going to be, by default, the upper one. But what you can do, you can go to dual, and behind the scenes what this does is like creating 2 layers of the same synthesizer. It's like having 2 panels on the same plugin. Now, how do you know where you are? So since we're standing on dual, right here it says panel. I'm gonna focus right there because this is a pretty big interface because it's a pretty big software. And when we start on dual, right here, and then we go to upper, it's going to be all the white lines. I go to upper and I go to lower. The lower is going to be the orange ones. Lower again, orange. And when you go to upper, it's going to be the white lines. So that's how you know where you are. Also, when you go to upper, it's going to be the rank number 1 and the rank number 2. But if you go to lower, now it's going to be the rank number 3 and the rank number 4. So when you layer the upper and the lower, everything is kind of independent. You have independent controls of pretty much everything, just pretty much everything. You can go to this section. For example, this is the effects section. And if you want to use the effects independently, right? One effect, a chain for each channel or each layer, let's say, you can do it. But if you go to global, notice that now this turns white. And if I go to upper or lower, it doesn't matter. This one will be global, which means it's going to be affecting both layers at the same time. Just a great thing to have. Now, sometimes, and I'm going to maybe start with the new patch again. So I'm going to stand on dual. So now we are just working on dual. So when we start on upper, it's going to be white. When we start on lower, it's going to be the orange. So right here, you will need to adjust the values just to work with the both layers. So if I go to upper, I know that this is the upper one. And with this, we control the levels. We already talked about this. Maybe we go up on the layer. If we go down, we have no volume for the layer 1, which means we are just getting the layer 2. If I go down in volume with the layer of the layer 2, we just don't get anything. So we need to make the right combinations of the layers and adjust the volumes just to get, just to work with this. Now, sometimes working with this, because it's a little bit confusing, you have pretty much 2 panels with the same thing. It's just a little bit confusing. You can solo the layer. It says layer solo right here. So if I play something, we are getting both at the same time. Lower and upper. But if I just stand right here and I tap on this button, this one is going to blink and I'm just getting the upper layer. So if I go down, we just, we hear that we get it. Now, if I get out of this, maybe I can go to lower and extend on this, and now we are getting the lower layer. Still, you can just go to upper and lower, and it's gonna keep soloing the layers. So when you unsolo, you get the blend of both. I'm gonna go back to a new one, and this is highly creative because you can create a massive patch, let's say a big pad on the layer number 1, and then you go to the layer number 2 and you add what is missing. Just fantastic little thing. Maybe, I don't know, we can go to dual, and we are gonna be soloing the layer number 1, which is gonna be the upper one. And maybe we're just gonna, do something like that. Something simple, and I'm gonna use the effects. And we have that, right? So it's fine. If I play it, we are doing that. Now, I'm gonna disable the solo, and we are getting the lower, but we are getting the upper one. It sounds really cool. And we are not doing anything on the lower one. So I can go to the lower one, I'm gonna solo, and this is what we get on the lower one. And right here, we can do the same thing. Maybe choose that and that. And now we just need to get both. See what we get. And we did nothing and we got a good sound. Imagine what you can do if you tweak the controls and you just create your own patches and layers. Right, so I'm gonna go back to a new patch, and you have single dual, but you have a split. So when you work on single, you just get one instance of the panel, the whole synth. Then you get dual, you get 2 instances, and it's just upper and lower. And if you think about this, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it just doesn't make sense. So it means that you put one layer on top of the next one. You just have two layers. But then the split, it makes a little bit more sense. The upper, it's going to be the upper part of the keyboard, and then the lower is going to be the lower part of the keyboard. So when you do this, you're splitting the keyboards, and one patch, maybe the first one, the upper one, which is this, is going to be on the high keys, and the lower is going to be on the lower keys. Now, the thing is, how can you decide what to do on each layer? Where is the breakpoint? So by default, it's going to be a C note, but still, you can decide where you want to put it. Right, so I'm going to be focusing right here. So when you go there and you hover, it's going to say layer mode, split, and then split key, and it says C4. Now, you can tap it again, and notice it's just starting to blink. And it's because it's waiting for you to make a split. So I'm going to be playing, I don't know, this one. I don't know which one it is. I'm going to just double check it. Sorry for that. I'm going to be doing this. And if I hover, it's going to say that now the split is on C5. So it's just this one. So now I'm going to reset. And now since we are splitting, then again, we have this one is going to be the split. So I'm going to go to the upper one. And I'm just going to, I don't know, select the sound, whatever. That is going to be the upper layer. And if I go to the lower, we have the default patch. If I go to the lower one and maybe make some strings, we get that on the lower keys, but then on the upper keys, we get the upper layer. So again, imagine all the sounds and, the patches that you can create just by doing dual and split. So that's it, that's the layer mode. It's a pretty simple thing. It gets really complex. I wouldn't say complex, it just takes a little bit more time. When you have 2 layers, and then you, of course, it's like creating 2 patches, not just one patch, but the possibilities, the sonic possibility, expands by, a ton. So it's a very creative, tiny little thing. So we get an expression and wah. So what you get on the original one, is a wah. The thing is that what they did, Cherry Audio, they throw a wah expression right here. Now, the expression, this one means that you can modulate the volume with a wah pedal. Right here, you just can map it with MIDI to whatever you want, whatever control in your computer you want, or you can just modulate it by hand. So this is just going to be up and down in volume, right? Now, on the original one, there was a wah, and if you don't know what a wah is, it's just a filter going up and down. If you're a guitar player, you already know what is a wah. So when you play it, it's going to be filtering, and you can see the resonant peak right there. Now, it's not a modeled wah. This is not the real, thing that you get on the hardware. And I believe it would be a pretty hard thing to get, especially because whenever you, if you're a guitar player, you would understand. So it depends on the model, depends on the time. Wahs from the 50s are very hard to replicate today because of the components. So it's just just a messy little thing. So what they did, they just gave you a wah instead of giving you nothing. When you can do again, you can use wah and volume at the same time. And you can again map this to whatever MIDI controller, your mod will, or whatever it is that you want to do, and just use it. So first, let's cover this, which is the sustain. So this one is like a sustain pedal. When you have a sustain pedal and you just press it, and it's going to be on, every key that you play, it's just going to sustain, right? That's how it works. So right now, if I play something, we have it on default, kind of a default mode. Now, if I go to this side, it's like kind of holding the pedal on, just pressing it and keep it pressed. And every time that we play a key, the note is going to sustain. And as I'm just doing it with the mouse right now. It has a decay, but the notes are just really long. So right here you have a knob slider to adjust the, how long the keys are. So if I play it again, it's just gonna sustain a long time. If I do short decay, a short sustain in this case, and I play it, it's just much shorter. Right? Almost unnoticeable. Right, so back to a default patch, we need to talk about the portamento and the gliss. So by default, you do have it. The things that the information, the knob, the slider right here has no value, so it's all the way down. Now, there's one tiny little difference with the one we have right here, the touch response pitch bend. So this is a little bit different. They revolve around the same thing. If I go here and just go all the way up and I play something, we get that portamento type of deal. Now, the thing is that this one is a little bit responsive to velocity. So if I play soft, the travel, and you can see it right there on the spectrum, the travel is going to be not that much. But you still get it, right? Now, if I play hard, the travel is just much longer. So it's responsive to velocity, which is, a little bit of portamento in this case, or glide, but it's not quite there. This is the real portamento and glide. This one is just, something that we get, and it's super short. You have no control over the time that it's going to glide. Now, on here, we have the kind of the real one. Now, by default, the switch is gonna be up. So I'm gonna be going up on this slider, and now it's gonna be really long. Right? So we get that portamento or glide. Pretty simple, you just turn it on. You can even use the sustain right here if you wanted to. It's gonna sound a little bit weird, but you can. Right, so I have very, I'm gonna go down, I have a very long time, so we could just do less. And we still get that portamento. Now, right next to the portamento, it says Porta and Gliss. I'm gonna cover this in a minute. Right here we have the 1 and the 2. So what's the difference between position 1 and position 2? This is for the sustain. It's not for this one. So I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna turn this on, and I'm gonna make it long because it's just gonna be a little bit weird to understand. So the number 1, the position number 1, it means that every key that we play, it will fade independently. So I play a key, and when I release it, it will just go down. I'm going to play a key, it's going to keep the sustain, and then as soon as I release it, the sustain is going to hold a little bit longer, but then it's going to start decaying. And this is independently on each different notes. Notice that I'm holding a key now, and I'm playing all their keys at the top, and they are sustaining. So this is what the number 1 is going to do. So what the number 2 will do, so I'm gonna go to the number 2. The number 2, when I play one key after the next one, and I'm gonna do a kind of a longer sustain right here. Now, when I play keys, you're gonna really notice the difference. I'm gonna be playing a key, That's what happens. The other one is just kind of holding all the notes, and every note will sustain independently, like I said before. Right now, if I play a key, and I play a new one, that one will kill the previous key sustain. Right? Okay, I'll play a low key, a high key, and then play a lower one. It's just killing the high key. But this is how it works. Still, if I play a key and I'm gonna play a lower key and I'm gonna sustain it, I'm gonna play the lower key and keep holding it. If I just play keys at the top, the higher keys are going to sustain along with the lower key. So now they will just decay, but not the sustain, keep the sustain and start decaying back, but they don't get killed. And it's because I'm holding a lower note. When I release the lower note, everything is just going to start dying together. Right? Notice that right there on the spectrum, you can really see it. I play a key, it's going to go up, then decay, and I'm going to be playing several notes and release everything at the same time, and everything decays. Now this is very cool, and it's pretty useful when you create chords, because whenever you do a chord, everything is just going to decay and sustain, of course, and decay at the same time. Right? It's just pretty useful. Now the other one is just going to be with keys, with chords, just pretty much the same. It's just a little bit different. The problem is that when you're playing different keys, so it's just different variations of the same idea. All right, so what's the difference between Portamento and Gliss? And now you need to look at the spectrum. You're gonna clearly see it right there. So I'm gonna do a long Portamento. So it means that we're gonna do it. We're gonna hear it. I'm gonna turn it on, and I'm gonna be playing a key, and it's gonna go all the way down. If I go play high key, it's gonna go all the way up. So this is Portamento. It's gonna go very smoothly because it's gonna slide through the frequencies, through the frequency spectrum, really smoothly. And it's gonna go and pass pretty much in all the frequencies that we have available on the spectrum. So what the F is Gliss? So Gliss is glissando. So that's the whole word. So what this one do, instead of going in a super linear way all the way up or all the way down, is going to do it in half steps. If I play a lower key, that's what it does. It's gonna go in half steps. So it's a stepped type of Portamento, if you must. Right, so that's the difference. Right, so we need to talk about the Aftertouch mode. Now, I'm going to focus right there at the bottom. So the Aftertouch mode is how the synthesizer will react to Aftertouch. And you really need a keyboard with Aftertouch. Now, not all keyboards have poly Aftertouch. If that, so you need to have the hardware to do this. So by default, it's standing on poly, which means that every key you play is going to, receive the Aftertouch information. It's just going to do it. Now, still, I'm going to show you the other ones. If I go to mono, and I'm going to go back maybe to the whole screen, and we're standing on mono and a default patch, I'm going to go to the touch response, and I'm going to add a lot of pitch modulation with the soft oscillator. So if I play a key maybe there, and I play, and I do, Aftertouch, it's going to start, just doing the modulation. And it's because I'm just doing the Aftertouch. Right. Now the thing is that the Aftertouch is mono. So I'm going to be playing a key, I'm going to start doing Aftertouch, I'm pressing really hard to do the Aftertouch, and now I'm going to be playing a higher key. When I play it, everything is going to move and vibrate, all, the voices at the top. And I'm not using the Aftertouch on the higher keys. So since it's mono, once you're pressing one key, you're doing Aftertouch in one key, all the other voices will do that modulation. That's why it's mono. One key, one Aftertouch, everything moves the same way. So what's the difference with the last? So it's a little bit different, and you're going to notice it right away. I'm going to be playing a low key. I'm going to do Aftertouch in 3, 2, 1. We get that modulation. And now I'm going to be playing higher keys. So every time that you play a new key, the last voice is the one that will modulate. So I'm going to play a higher key in 3, 2, 1. There you go, and you see it on the spectrum. The higher key is moving But the lower key, now it's just, the same spot. It's not moving. If I play a higher key now and play 3 keys at the same time, now the higher key gets that modulation. So this is a, cool little way to mimic what you would get on Poly Aftertouch. Right. So Poly is just going to be every time that you do Aftertouch on every single key that you get, you are going to get it, right? You're going to get a modulation for that voice. It's just pretty simple. But you need the hardware to do it. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but we just covered the whole synthesizer. There's nothing else to cover. The only thing we need to discuss is going to be maybe the master effect, which is pretty simple. You get a volume, you can go up, you can go down, and you do have a limiter. So if you go up really up in volume and you disable this one, it's not going to clip the signal. But still, you get a little bit of clipping. And when you go up, now we have a very silent patch, but as we go up and you stack layers and you go up in volume, it's going to give you a little bit of saturation, which is, cool. So the last thing we need to discuss, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it's just very simple. We need to talk about the effects. So this is the effects section, and you need to enable them from here. So if I play a key, we get nothing. And if I enable this one, now we are using the rotary and the coarse. Flanger, phase, phaser, then delay, and then reverb. And you just can, remove the different effects from here at the bottom. This is where you turn the effects on or off. So when you turn them on, notice that they will light up, and the other ones are grayed out, right? So pretty simple. Now the effects are just so the effects are just pretty simple. You get a course, and again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You can call it a day if you must. So you get a course. Now right here, you're standing on the rotary. I'm sorry, on the course. So you get the depth of the course and the speed of the modulation. And you can have a fast one, and you can have a slow one. So the difference is that this is going to mess with the time. So now the depth, the speed, is going to be super fast. But then, since you go too slow, it's just going to be a little bit slower. It's a way of fast changing the values, if you ask me. Now then, you can go to a rotary, and this is just a completely different thing. You don't have, dedicated controls for this, and I'm going to stand them fast. So this is how the rotary will sound. Right, so let's just move on. I'm gonna disable this one, and you get a flanger or you get a phaser. So this one is a phaser, you get the depth, the feedback, and the speed. And if you want, you can use a flanger. I don't know what else I can tell you, this is just pretty understandable. Right, so then I'm gonna go and turn this one off, and I'm gonna go to the delay, and then you just have a delay, and you have two types of delay, which is, really nice. You have a digital delay. It's gonna be a digital delay. You can have the dry and the wet. You can just dampen all the repetitions or make them really bright because you're standing on digital. You can't do this. Right, so the regen is the feedback. I'm gonna go all the way up, and we get that. And this one is gonna be the time. Shorter times or longer times. And notice that we are working in milliseconds, but you can just sync it to your DAW and then use dots, triplets, and whatever it is that you want to do. Now, one cool thing that we get is that again we are using digital, but we can use it. We can use a different algorithm. We can use tape, which is it just has a very different sound. Very different sound. If I go to digital and just pretty much do the same, it's just way different, and it's again really cool. They give us a different taste for the delay on the same unit. So I'm gonna go down, and lastly we have the reverb, and you have a plate reverb, which is a plate reverb. You can go all the way up on the wet. You have a bright. You can dampen the plate, and then you have a long decay or a short decay. Again, just at this point, I'm just showing you how it sounds. Now, you have the Galactic reverb, which is the flagship reverb from Cherry Audio, which is really cool. And it's just going to be a long type of reverb. Right? That's everything. And I'm using long times. I'm going to dampen everything. So that's the Galactic reverb. And I'm gonna go all the way down because it's gonna take a long time to die. All right, so that's it. That's pretty much the whole synthesizer. Now you need to do some exploring because you get a million patches. You have basses, bells, organs. You have a million patches. They're really good, and I believe every time that they do an update, you get more patches. So it's just crazy. And all the goodies that you get from Cherry Audio, all the controls right here. Not gonna cover this, but yeah. Now this is a deep dive. So I just don't give you my opinion about a synthesizer. I just show you how it works because it's a deep dive. I'm on a neutral position, but it's just great. It's a fantastic synth. If you want to try something new, maybe you're tired of your classic Mach, or maybe you just use serum too much, or pigments or something like that. This is just a completely different thing, and it's a different workflow, right? It just gives you different sounds. It just sounds different. But yeah, it's just great. It's just great. So if you have the money, and it's not that it's not that expensive. If you have the money, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you get the feel of the GX-80 and more. Now, one thing I would love to get right here is it's a way to reduce, maybe just remove this part right here at the top. Maybe have an option to just make it a little bit tinier because the interface is pretty big and everything gets super small right here, as you can see maybe on your screen. And another thing that I would really love on this synthesizer is an arpeggiator, or maybe a sequencer, something like that. That would be great. But for the money and how it sounds, I cannot really complain. That's my opinion. Now, if you're thinking this dude's getting paid by Cherry Audio, no one is paying me. Now, to be honest, I would love for somebody, maybe some of the companies like Ranger or Cherry Audio or Arturia to pay me something, because no one pays me anything. All the support comes from you. So yeah, this is my honest review. Okay, so hopefully you learned something on this one, and remember to like and subscribe. And if you have the money again, and if you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can go to the links at the description. You have a button for PayPal, you have a YouTube thanks, or you can go to Patreon and maybe just be a 1-month patron. Why not? See you on the next one.